Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. I have a guest in this video. Who do we have?
Hello, I'm Eli.
We've got Eli here, and the reason why he's here is because you have maintained a lot of aquariums in your life, and this video is all about some quick tips, some best practices when maintaining your aquarium. And I thought, who better than to ask than the person who has cleaned, I don't know, how many tanks have you cleaned in your life?
I think it's around over 10,000.
So, yes, Eli doesn't look old enough to be having cleaned 10,000 tanks, but we calculated it out. He does roughly 30 tanks every week for probably 10 years, and actually get way more than 10,000, but we're just going to go conservative and say 10,000. So we're going to talk about some cool tips for you. Hope you enjoy the video.
The first thing is to turn off any heaters or filters so that you don't injure yourself with the electricity mixed in with the tank water. And so we turned off this filter here. We don't have any heaters on this tank because we heat the room. And so the next tip number 2, is that we scrape the algae first before anything, and then we also clean the lids. So this tank is all the way up here, so I need to get on this stool and we can start scraping some algae. Alright, so I clean up some algae on the tank. We do that first before we start draining or doing any filters because we want to get all of this mess off of the front of the glass so that when we drain the tank and we clean up, that we have all of this stuff on the glass off. Alright, so now we're going to do the filters. So we're going to clean the filters now. We're going to do that first because when you take the filter media out of the hang on the backs or you take the sponge filters out of the tank, they tend to get a lot of poop that goes back into the tank. So we always do that first so that when we drain, then we take all that stuff out. So we got a hang on the back filter and 2 sponge filters in this tank. So I'm just going to take the hang on the back one first. I've got a bucket here because I clean it in the sink over there. And so in order to not drip water and poop all over the place, put them in the bucket. So first thing I want to point out that the time that these filters can be out of the fish tank cannot be too long, otherwise the beneficial bacteria that's been caught up and cultivated in these filters will start to die out and be removed, which is really important for the fish tank, which we've already explained before in past videos. The other thing is that, as you can see, these filters aren't so clean looking and they're seemingly weathered and used. That's because we reuse our filter media because that's perfectly fine to do and it's just cost efficient. So we can start cleaning them. Typically we use temperature that's similar to the temperature of the fish tank, and so I always just start off washing both sides so you don't see any dark stuff. Then you can go in and squeeze until there's nothing dark really coming out. Done. This one. Once there's nothing brown left, then we're done. Okay, so we're putting the filter media back in the tank. It's important to note that we clean these filters weekly. That maintains the clarity of the fish tank and the overall cleanness. Alright, so now we're going to start draining the tank. It's important to test your nitrates before you start draining to know how much water you need to change, because you need to keep your nitrates under 20 parts per million in order to keep your fish safe and the ecosystem healthy. So we're going to start draining. Now, we've already done these nitrate testings before, a long time before, and so we already know how much water we need to drain from this tank specifically. We need to drain about 25% in order to keep, well, for right now, this one fish healthy, because there's one fish in here. But if you have more fish or a smaller tank maybe, you'll need to drain more. It is also very convenient not to use buckets while draining because you'll have to drain the water, and if you have a larger tank, have to take the buckets back and forth to the sink many times. It's very convenient to use a Python system instead, like we have, where you just drain the water straight to the sink or the sump pump if you can. And for tanks that don't have sand, you'll want to gravel vac the tank. Obviously this tank, as you can see, it does have some pretty heavier sand, so you can kind of skim the top and still get the waste off. But for gravel substrate, you'll want to dip the hose right in all the way down to the bottom of the tank, all the way through the gravel, so you're making sure you get rid of all the waste. Also, don't take out your decorations or your rocks or anything and take them out of the tank while you're draining and bleach them, as this can kill off the beneficial bacteria and hurt your ecosystem of the tank. And also, while you're draining the tank, this is the best time to take out any duckweed if you have it. It's on the top of the tank. It's just easier to do it that way since the water level is farther away from the lid and you'll have more room to work with. Now, to guarantee our fish's safety, we're going to put the dechlorinator in first before we fill so that we don't forget. We're using Fritz ACCR. This is the stuff. It doesn't smell. It's actually non-toxic to fishes, invertebrates, aquatic plants, humans, and pets. So before filling, we do put this in. For this size tank and the amount drained, we're going to put about a teaspoon in. Alright, so now we're filling this tank. Now, it's important to check the temperature at which you're filling and make sure that it matches the temperature of the tank, that's the water that's already there. This is so you don't temperature shock your one fish or your many fish, and to keep them healthy and not make them sick or hide or anything like that. And once we're done filling, which is about halfway up the black piece at the top, just make sure that you plug in your filters and your heaters back in, so all this work will pay off. And when you turn on your filter, don't worry if it spits back out some waste at the beginning. That's completely normal. It's residual waste that was built up from beforehand that when you took out the media, it just kind of welled up at the bottom. You couldn't really get to it, and that's okay. It'll get it back in and catch it back up in the new filter media.
Alright everybody, so those are some quick tips on how to clean an aquarium. Eli's going to be making more appearances on the channel. He's going to be in some of the live streams coming up here pretty soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.